I can hear the sound. I can hear the music there, Dawson. I know we're live.
Just making
sure. What's that?
Just making sure.
I know.
You're
I know,
busy.
I
You're
know
busy.
what's
I'm
going
trying
on
to
over
keep
here. Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and the lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host. We're broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast, the liberal zombie apocalypse of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Fresh off a trip from Las Vegas, Nevada. More on that trip for our subscribers in the after show. Fun stuff to talk about, and we want to show our subscribers what the hell we were up to out there. I think you'll enjoy this. If you're following us on Rumble or YouTube, make sure you like and hit subscribe. This episode's brought to you by Alpine Cabinetry in East St. Cloud. My good friend Warren Wessel of Warren Wessel Realty. If you're buying a home or selling a home, you got to give Warren a call. You would think I'd know the number by now, but I don't. I still got to read it. 612-419-7453, but that's because it's so important of a number. I don't want to fudge it up. So 612-419-7453. And if you're buying a home through Warren, why don't you give my good friends at John Galt Mortgage? Who is John Galt? Who is, you know what book I'm talking about? It's right there.
Yeah.
Let's shrug. John Galt Mortgage Company. They believe what we believe, and just check out their social media. You'll understand within minutes. Go to johngaltmortgage.com. What are we talking about today there, MAGA Jesse?
That's right. We got a lot of good stuff. We're going to be going over the Minnesota GOP reports. We're going to be going over the financial status. Big news. The MNGOP is broke, as usual. So we'll also be joined by Steve Boyd. We're going to be talking with him about CD7, everything that's going on there. We'll be talking about the Republican conventions coming up, the state central and state convention, and the prices that have also gone up. We're going to be talking about red light cameras making a comeback. If it's going to be legalized to go topless in Minnesota, and then transgender mandates and health care insurance.
And we don't have an opinion on that story.
Yeah, but
right?
also
No
I'm
opinion.
seeing in the comments, Tucker saying good afternoon. Alley Cat, good afternoon. Laser Jim says hi from Gaylord. Billy22 says hey. And Alley Cat says please share with friends. And Failed Candidate says hit the like button. So we appreciate you doing the work for us there.
There you go. I wonder if Failed Candidate's friend Brad Ganser's around here today. Running the dials as always, Mr. Deep State himself, Dawson. How you doing there, Dawson?
I'm doing okay. A little bit jet lagged, nothing too insane. I'm excited to get back to the routine of today leg day and then tomorrow upper body day.
Yeah, and I guess, you sounds like you'll be fine talking about something that's impacted all of our lives, but you in particular here. Let's, if it feels right, we'll do it later in the show. So stick around here. If you want to be part of the conversation as these guys like Tucker and Failed Candidate, Alley Cat, just go into the comment section on Rumble. We'll read it. If you want to interrupt me or Jesse at any time, or Steve Boyd when he's on the Zoom call, make sure to hit the Rumble rant. It also helps support our show. All right. So many stories, and I guess the thing that we do at the Truth Hurts show is we're not going to just tell you what you're hearing from everyone else. Obviously, what's the start of a world war, right? You don't know it. Usually it's something figured out in history, right? Down the road, they say this is what the start of World War I was, or this was the start of World War II. Maybe we've already been in World War III. We don't know. Obviously, pretty crazy stuff happening between the tensions of Israel and Iran. I feel like we have opinions on it, and we want to talk about it. I just don't feel like you got to come to Truth Hurts to get that, okay? And we might cover it, but you're going to get that from so many other media outlets. What you're not going to hear from other media outlets is a massive issue that we have here, and that's the Minnesota Republican Party. It's almost, Jesse, as if they are purposely trying to fail.
It's almost that way. I mean, it's so pathetic that, it'd almost be better if they were trying to fail, because then it would show some level of success, because what's going on now is totally embarrassing for the party.
If you're not from Minnesota, and part of the other thing about our show is Minnesota is a red state in many regards. Yeah, we haven't voted for a Republican president since 1972. Got it. But the legislature was Republican in 2017 and 18. I mean, it's not it's like if we're a blue state where it's like New York or California, two really good ones, Illinois, you're never going to have a Republican legislature.
Yep.
We do. So state's really not that blue. Okay.
Well, and that's the thing. If the Republican Party had the resources that the Democrats do, and if they actually spent them not attacking other conservatives and trying to get conservatives elected, we would have a Republican state Senate. We would probably even have a Republican state House if the Republicans were actually effective at getting the money and spending it effectively on candidates in swing districts. But instead, the Republican Party is only interested in dividing us and taking the conservatives out of primaries. They want the establishment. They want their own good old boys club in there.
Well, and that's what they accuse us of, right? But let's just be honest. We're all about unity as long as you unify over conservative ideas, right? What they want to do is unify us on the status quo. Well, we're not fine with that. By the way, did you know David Hann, he's part of some civility in the parties movement? I don't even know what it's called. Do you know?
Oh, interesting.
And I think he does this with Ken Martin, the Democrat chair. So this is the thing that's just pisses me off is we need to have civility in politics again. Which, by the way, in case you didn't know, do you know how Alexander Hamilton died? He died at the barrel of a gun of his political opponent. That was at the founding of this country. Do you know what happened under Abraham Lincoln's tenure? Right? Like the idea that we're all of a sudden not civil as a society is so ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Politics has always been contentious. The nice thing about America is it's usually not done at the end of a sword or the end of a barrel of a gun. But it has been. It really has been.
K-Wall for Life says, since when has politics been civil? Exactly. Great point.
So, but anyhow, the reason that I push back on this is when you are literally threatening my family and you take the issue, but right now we got some really monumental big ones. Maybe the two biggest, at least when it comes nationally, is what's going on across the border, which has killed U.S. citizens. We've had terrorists caught even in Minnesota. And you see what they're doing, eroding away the purchasing power of our dollar, right? So you're literally stealing money out of my paycheck. Well, you do anyhow for taxes. Actually, I got to write it in, but most people are W-2'd and they get it stolen right out. But you're taking away the purchasing power of my dollars. So it's like, oh, I should just be civil. We should just get in line. Politics should just continue moving at inches and not abruptly pushing back. Okay, so this is politics today. Now, in Minnesota, if you're not from Minnesota, we are literally run by the Democrats right now. They have the House, the Senate, and the governorship. This hasn't happened in more than a decade, and that was very short-lived because the Democrats at that time pushed forward their radical agenda. And by the way, when I say radical agenda, it looks like nothing compared to what they're doing now. Nothing. Okay, and we'll get into some of those issues today. So the top priority, you guys tell me in the comment section right now, or if you're watching after the fact, hit me up at jake@truthhurtsnews.com or put in the comment section afterwards. I really want to hear what you think about this. If you're running the Republican Party, your first priority, what should it be? In my opinion, it should be to get rid of the Democrat trifecta in St. Paul, right? Which, by the way, the way to do that is to raise a bunch of money in your state committee and make sure that Republicans win back the Minnesota House. It's the only one that's up. The Senate's not up for another 2 years, although Kelly Morrison wins in this fall and there will be a special election. So there is actually an opportunity. But should it not be to win back that Minnesota House? Well, we got an article Jesse wrote for actionforliberty.com, and let's go to this here. And by the way, we'll have Steve Boyd joining us in about 5-6 minutes. I want to get into his race. So we'll power through as much of the story as we can. But this is a story you wrote. It shows in a new report, new campaign finance report from the first quarter Minnesota, or first quarter this year, the total amount raised by David Hann for the state committee, the state Republican Party account, is a total $60,000 plus another $70 in small dollar donations. We're not making this up. If you scroll down here, it shows there's 4 donors. That's when you scroll down on that. You'll see there's 4 donors right here, each giving over $5,000. The top, so that equals $60,000. And then you see where it says non-itemized, $70. That means small donors that didn't donate more than the $200 threshold where they have to itemize and let the public know who gave.
And one thing I noticed, the CFB requires that if you're going to be donating an amount over $200, you are required to have the person's employment or their occupation. I don't see that listed on there for Mr. Mark Summers, number 3 donor on there. It's also interesting that...
by the way, I wouldn't
Right.
that
it's
could just be
probably not a
yeah.
big deal, but it could
Tone
be.
it down.
And I also find it interesting if you look at the second donor. What kind of homemaker has $30,000?
All right. Take it easy there.
Hey, I'm just saying it's a
No,
little
that's-
odd.
Okay, that's not even fair. What you just did.
It's a little odd.
No, it's just a wife of somebody that's
Right.
got a lot of money. What? It's
No,
not
no.
odd.
I'm saying to give $30,000 like that is a little odd, and you'd think it might be in his name. I don't
No,
know.
that's not okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's
Take
just
it
me.
easy. You probably don't go through CFP reports as often as I do. Janine, I don't know Janine.
I don't
hope-
either.
By the way, you probably want to see how little your investment's paying off. By the way, but I'm assuming she's trying to do the right thing and donate to the party that needs to take on the Democrat establishment, which would be a very good value, right? To try to take on the establishment Democrat Party. Well, so $60,000 and 70. This is all quarter one. Now, if you went into the Republican Party's federal election committee, imagine they got two accounts: one that can go to state elections, and that's what we're showing you here, and then one that goes to federal elections, where they also pay their staff and David Hann and stuff like that. That's the federal account. Now, their federal account, we're not gonna really hone in on that. But it's not like that one's that great anyhow. You know what, Dawson? I'm going to send you a link here real quick, just so people see that I'm not trying to play a sleight of hand.
Sure, we'll go ahead and scroll down. If you're trying to look up the federal things, I have it linked in there. Go ahead and
You
scroll
do?
down
Okay.
there, Dawson.
You updated the story?
And let's see. It is. It's at the paragraph that says the MNGOP leadership would rebut this article. So I think it's a little bit up there, Dawson. Let's see. Underneath there. Scroll down a little bit. Or, no, that's right. You had it.
This one?
Yep, that's right. Yep.
No, I don't want to show that. Go out of there, because that's going to show the election cycle. Let's go. I want to compare apples and apples here. Dawson, I just put it in G7. Press G8. Who knows that reference? Who knows that movie reference I just did? G7. You press G8. If you like pina colada.
You're saying it was put in.
Do you see it in G7?
Is it 7 or 8? Okay, here it is.
Shoot, is
I
it?
found it.
Oh, I'm hovering
No, I
over it.
found it. It was a good.
7.
It was a good bit, but it messed me up. So, bad bit. Also, Steve Boyd is here, by the way.
Okay, well, just hold off on this second here. This is their federal count. If you scroll down, you'll see a summary. See column B there. So right now they have cash on hand, $270,000. They've actually raised this year, and this is of, I think, the end of February. They raised $606,000. So they're basically bringing all their fundraising into the federal account, which isn't going to win back the state from the Democrat control. Okay. And that's an important thing here. But the other thing that you have to understand is, okay, so they have $270,000 cash on hand, but at line 10, they have $374,000 in debt. So even the count that shows that they're raising more money, they're still negative cash. All right. So they're that's over $100,000 in debt over the cash they have. The liabilities and the assets are not living in parity here. Okay, so now let's go back to the state account, and then we'll bring Steve Boyd on here, candidate for Congressional District 7, challenging Rhino Michelle Fischbach. So what they've done, I mean, let's just say they raised $60,000. They just put it in the cash account and we're good, right? No, that's not what they did. The expenditures have gone to paying outstanding liabilities. So they blew all that money paying back lawyers, one of which is the lawyer that went up against Action for Liberty. Twice, actually. And they're paying back vendors. Now, go back to this article on actionforliberty.com. Even after taking that money and going and paying vendors, and what did they have, $57K in cash or something like that?
Right.
Okay, so they only have $57K in cash. The MNGOP right now is negative cash in their state account. They literally have $103,000 in unpaid bills. They're not paying their lawyers, the good guys at Cross Castle, $53,000. They have an event consultancy LLC that they owe $15,772. They owe that asshole over at Reed LeBeau, the lawyer that comes after us. They owe him $17,954. And this is the one that gets me. They're stiffing 2 event centers that have literally hosted events for him. One being Minnehaha Academy, $2,105, and St. Paul River Center, $14,313. The Republican Party, if it's bad enough that they're losing the Democrats, they're creating more of a black eye by stiffing the event centers that are hosting their conferences. It says the St. Paul River Center was for the 2020. Why does it say 2024 state convention? Oh, you know what? Is the 2024 state convention in St. Paul?
I believe so.
Oh, so this is it says on August 8th. So the date that they got this thing is August 8th of last year. Did they mistakenly say, or did they have to put down a big cash fee? And then you have December. I wonder if that's incorrect. And then you got December 21st last year, facility rental for a state central meeting. They're stiffing these vendors. So once again, oh, we got it. Yeah, K-Wall. K-Wall got it. Dirty work. Boy, K-Wall. Love it. That was my reference. G7. It's when Chris Farley wants to play a song on the jukebox and he presses G7. He presses G8. Great movie. Very underrated. So they did $103,000 in outstanding bills. We'll get back to the story here, but this is a nice preface as we bring on Steve Boyd, who's running for the party endorsement in Congressional District 7. Steve, thanks for joining us. I can't remember if we talked about this before. The party, which is fundraising basically just for their federal account, must be so that they can help support their endorsed candidates, right?
That would be the assumption, I would think, right?
And so if you're the endorsed candidate, this would be good for you, right?
It should be, yeah.
Okay. On this, and I don't remember if we talked about this last time. This is from Hann, and he's actually done a couple of these. We got a Rumble rant.
$5 Rumble rant. Failed candidate says, was David Hann's profession a hedge fund manager? Doubt it.
Probably not.
Yeah,
no,
it doesn't look like it.
I don't think so. So this is on the backside. It says, by re-electing Tom Emmer, Pete Stauber, Michelle Fischbach, and Brad Finstead, we will protect our U.S. House Republican majority. This is from this year. I thought they're supposed to be a neutral party.
Well, it appears they have a preference in that letter, but we are coming into this endorsement convention strong, even though there's been a lot of stuff going on, and it'll be interesting to see if they're forced to turn around and support our campaign in a couple weeks.
If you're the endorsed candidate, explain to people what's happening. I think it's April 27th, which is a Saturday. Tell people, not everyone that watches our show understands the endorsing conventions, how that works out. Explain to people what's going down that day.
Yeah, absolutely. So after caucuses, there's delegates elected from caucuses, and then to the county conventions, delegates are elected at your county convention to represent each county BPOU at the district convention. And that's where a vote is held to endorse a candidate, a congressional candidate in District 7. In our case, you have to achieve a 60% threshold to become the endorsed candidate. And with that comes support from the party lists, funding, and support from the local BPOU. So it's a big part of the process. And then, of course, there's a primary in August as well. So on Saturday the 27th, we'll be contending for that endorsement at the CD7 convention down in Jackpot Junction in Morton.
Okay, and you think you're looking pretty good numbers-wise going to this convention, which you need 60% to get the endorsement. So you think you have a good path to that?
Yes, absolutely. We're coming in really strong. We still have some unknowns that we're trying to reach. We don't have the lists that Representative Fischbach has. We declined to sign the endorsement pledge for various reasons, not the least of which is that there's conflict of interest in the process, with Craig Bishop being the chairman of the district and being a direct employee on the legislative staff of Representative Fischbach, as well as we anticipated the issues coming up in Otter Tail County that's been hotly debated around the district lately, and rightly saw that coming. So we did not sign that pledge, and so we did not have any access to those lists. But as we're coming through, we're looking really strong coming into the convention.
Okay, I just want to have a real no bullshit conversation with you here, Steve. I think that's what makes us different than other groups. The Star Tribune reached out to me this week, and I think they reached out to you because they mentioned they had chatted with you, and they wanted our thoughts on the CD7 race. And I unloaded about Otter Tail County, which is what I think is the reason that David Hann was willing to make such a crazy unilateral decision to just remove delegates from the process. My understanding at this point is that Fischbach is starting to get worried, and she's reneging on the endorsement pledge that she made. Have you heard this? I've heard it from multiple sources, by the way.
Yeah, we've had that confirmed that happened during her nomination interview earlier this week. And so she signed that pledge early on, was, like I mentioned, able to get the list and contact the delegates. And now that the conventions are over, all those lists have been distributed, she has decided to...
Okay, stop. This is what pisses me off. Craig Bishop, an employee. He runs CD7. He's an employee of Michelle Fischbach. We've confirmed this on the show. They require a pledge to support the endorsed candidate, and that's how you get the delegate list. Michelle Fischbach signs that pledge, has now reneged on the pledge, but she has gotten the delegate list, and you have not had a delegate list to call?
Correct. So we've had to build that list on our own. I did send an email to Craig Bishop this morning saying, hey, considering the circumstances, I'm requesting that list be immediately distributed to the other candidates, because that's the only proper thing to do in this situation. It's absolutely ridiculous, but I think it's due to the fact that we are coming in this strong, and we are going to contend for this endorsement, and apparently their numbers have them upside down as well.
I mean, that's the only rationale I could have. Plus, Otter Tail County might end up in getting, the newly elected delegates. There's a process that's happening. I'm not going to get into that right now. Listen, there's the people that say, oh, well, you guys keep going after Republicans, and it's like, if there's corruption in your own party, you got to call that out first before you start moving to tackle the bigger problems of the Democrats. And the Democrats are a big problem. But by the way, the GOP can't talk like that, because in the state account, they are not raising the money to actually get rid of the Democrat majority in St. Paul. By the way, if they start saying that, they're liars now, because all they're doing is they're putting it into the federal account. And this is what gets me here. If you win this endorsement, which you're likely to win, and I'm sure, we know, you and I both know, right? They're going to try to poison the well, and they're going to say this endorsement was fraudulent, and Michelle has to run to the primary. But the CD7, which has a federal account, is run by her staff member. I mean, they're not going to help you. And David Hann isn't going to help you. So if you win this endorsement, which, by the way, is the voice of the people that showed up to caucus and wanted to help out with the process, they're going to ignore you and probably work against you, but they're certainly not going to help you. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. Do you have any impression that these guys are actually going to support you if you win that endorsement in a week and a half?
Indications so far have been no, and I think where it really comes down to the importance of still running the process and bringing light to what this process has become in this district and this state. But also, I'm more interested in the help from the local BPOUs and the support from those BPOUs as part of that endorsement, and that's what we have a lot of, including, when you reference the Otter Tail issue, there's a lot of the BPOUs that are supporting these 2024 delegates in the Otter Tail process too, which is putting that pressure on as well, and I think contributed to the decision this week and coming into the convention. It's all blowing up in their face.
Yeah. Do we have any comments here? I got a couple more questions for him, but I don't want to avoid anything.
Yeah, nothing in particular about this.
So if we could just pivot here real quick, because this stuff really gets my blood boiling, Steve, and I'm glad to hear that you are in a good position to win this endorsement. It'll be fun to watch the Star Tribune article come out there. I didn't pull any punches, not that I ever do, but I wanted to give them material. They have to know about what's going on in that district. But, in the end of the day, I shouldn't say it's more important because you have to solve the corruption. Otherwise, we'll never get better representatives. But in the end of the day, the very important stuff is happening on the global stage. We're also watching the Mike Johnson getting backlash from conservative parts of the U.S. House of Representatives. We're watching literally more spending, reckless spending, not solving that issue. What are your thoughts on the news stories of the last week, and why are you different than Michelle Fischbach, who, by the way I look at it, she's just status quo. No, now I just gave him a softball, I guess. But what what are you going to do different? What do you see as the big issue here that you got to solve?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think you nailed it from the beginning. First, we got to start locally if we're going to actually take these things on and show a willingness to stand up for what is right, whether it's happening on the local level, an Otter Tail case, all the way up. And if we're not willing to do that, how do we expect to take on these issues on a national level? And the real difference between myself and Representative Fischbach is the willingness to stand up to these issues. We've been touring the district, doing town halls with the Westbury James family, bringing light to what's happening to the January 6th defendants. I've been vocal about the fact that I can't understand how we gave away our leverage, the only leverage we had, to shut down our border through using the power of the purse and being willing to shut down the government, and that same leverage when it comes to the budget issues that we have. And we continue to give money overseas. They're talking about another foreign aid bill, using money that we don't have and going to print. And at some point, we're just going to have to be willing to stand up and say no more. And there's a few there that are willing to do that in the House Freedom Caucus, and they need more help. And that's what we're willing to do, because this isn't about building a political career. It's about getting our country back on track. And being willing to do what it takes. And that's the big difference. And we talk about unity. We need unity in the party to defeat the Democrats. And that's absolutely true. But we have to start defining what we're uniting around and what principles. It's not just around a party. It's around what actually needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we like to say is if it's unity, then what are we unifying them around? And to some people, it's, well, just the people who are already elected, right? It's like, well, that's not, is my whole job, is this why I get motivated in politics, to make sure Michelle Fischbach has a career? Like, oh yeah, I'm really gonna get out of my seat or get out of my bed in the morning and go help her career. Somewhere down the road, it's got to be about what's happening in my family and what's happening in the future of the country. Let's go to some comments here.
Yep, I see Razzle Dazzle says, when there's corruption in the smallest form of government, the BPOU, it needs to be called out immediately. That's where we have the most influence and need to start first. And Failed Candidate says, if you have a legitimate grievance and disagree with the party on strategy, mechanics, or rigged BS, you are the problem. When will the party learn? Great point. And also, is it wrong? It is wrong that Steve Boyd doesn't have the list. It is wrong that the party spends money to attack A. Farrell. And it is wrong to attack endorsed conservatives.
Well, maybe the party'd have some money if they didn't use it to go after us, which is dumb on their part. And now they can't. And by the way, we have to spend money with legal fees, which is not helping go up against the left-wingers. Just like, listen,
that's where the majority of the money was spent by David Hann. That latest report was for
correct.
Lawyers. So, obviously that's the problem. We need to be spending money on actually helping candidates get elected if we want to see Republicans take over the state house and state senate, and then also in the U.S. House. It's not going to come from lawsuits against A. Farrell, that's for sure.
There weren't lawsuits, by the way. There were
erroneous complaints,
campaign finance complaints. We would be unified as long as the team or the movement is going towards the Constitution and fiscal responsibility. But if you're, and this is where I think why you're running, Steve, is just because it's the status quo. It seems to be all we need to care about are the careers of the politicians who continue clicking the status quo button. Michelle Fischbach voted for the initial package to give our tax money to Ukraine. I got a big problem with that. I still think these people are treasonous to tax me and my family and give that money overseas. And by the way, it's not just a direct tax. It's also the inflationary tax. They rode the purchasing power of my dollar, and they're giving it overseas. So, best of luck to you this weekend, or not this weekend, sorry, the following weekend in this endorsing convention. We definitely are going to keep track of this thing, and I'm guessing the Star Tribune article is coming out next week. Any parting words here, Steve?
Well, I would just like to say that we would prefer to focus on the issues and what needs to be done, and we have shown unique ability in our campaign to generate a lot of support and volunteers and people to get activated, and we want to use that army to affect these state races, these state house races, and win the statewide for Trump and for our Senate race. And when we get bogged down with these ridiculous games, that's only hurting that. So we'll talk about actually fighting the Democrats. If we can get past this and actually have a debate on the issues on a level playing field, then we can actually start taking aim and winning on the issues, not just playing the political games. So hopefully we can get past that and affect the broader scale as well.
What's the website people can go learn more about you?
Yeah, follow us on boydforhouse.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever it's called now. Please reach out. And if you're a delegate and we haven't been in touch with you, reach out because we may not be able to find you. So,
All right. Well, thank you very much, Steve, for coming on.
thank you very much.
You know, my job here, and I've had people ask about getting more politicians on the show. I just don't care to have the status quo politicians on the show. However, I would allow Michelle Fischbach to come on the show to correct the record and actually making a comment about Otter Tail County. But all I know from her is she's silent on hundreds of her own constituents being disenfranchised. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's not. Here's the thing. The only reason she would come on the show is she assumes she can fool us and our audience into believing she's one of the good ones. And I think she's probably smart enough to know that's not going to work. So she'll never come on the show. You know, and my job is not to promote just career politicians, which she is. She has been, a state rep, a state senator, the lieutenant governor. Then she became a U.S. congressperson. It's all about them. It's their job. And meanwhile, we're like literally broke, and we're talking about Ukraine and Israel funding package this weekend. These guys make me sick. Okay, let's get back to the Republican Party. So once again, you know, it's not just the finances, Jesse. It's the fact that they won't even give a list of delegates. Michelle Fischbach makes a fool out of them. Not really a fool because they're all buddy in behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. You know, literally, she's got employees that are running CD7. So that's a conflict of interest right there. But anyhow, she gets this delegate list. Her opponent doesn't get the delegate list. They have to go find out who the delegates are the really hard way. And then meanwhile, she's not going to go by the pledge anyhow, which, by the way, just means she is not honoring the pledge. She went back on her word, right? Mm-hmm. Shocker. Another politician that lied to us. K. Wall says, good message, Steve. No sane person wants this pointless, endless war they push on us. Cheers. Mm-hmm. You know, by the way, I really like Steve Boyd. I got to just say, the few times I've met the guy, and we've had him on the show, we've had him in person on the show too. I mean, he's like the kind of guy that I want to see in office. And if he strays when he gets in office, we'll be the first ones talking about it. But I would say that's a pretty safe bet of a guy that's not going to stray from you. Because it seems like, you can kind of tell some people have like the deep-rooted principles, right? Mm-hmm. And they're not the icky politician type. And this is who Steve is. So let's get back to the finance report. Because, in the end of the day, it's almost like, will it matter if the Republican Party can't win? Mm-hmm. They literally, it's almost, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, okay? But let's just imagine like the Democrats wanted to plant a guy to ruin the party. It would be David Hann. Mm-hmm. Like, just disrupt things inside the base, go after endorsed candidates, cut off data access, go up against the largest grassroots organization, Action for Liberty, disenfranchise hundreds of delegates in Otter Tail County. Mm-hmm. And then, by the way, just be negative cash flow. Well, not negative cash flow, but be more into debt, because I think he took them further into debt again. Give no hope, and literally when it comes to the state account, can't actually do anything. Mm-hmm. Just so, and I think you wrote this in your article, just so you could get perspective. And some people might be like, well, is it just because that's what they all do? They just put money in their federal account instead of their state account? No, the Democrats right now have $1.4 million in their state account. Mm-hmm. So that's $1.4 million in TV and ad buys that they can spend to get the Democrats to keep the Minnesota House. The Republican Party has zero money. They have zero money. Any money they spend means they're going to continue stiffing their vendors.
Yep. And, politics aside, one thing that should be said, Ken Martin, he is a winner. You know, when we look at the fundraising, when we look at winning elections, and when we look at legislation, Ken Martin is getting everything that he wants. I mean, and he's a DNC vice chair. This guy is a legitimate, high-profile person, and it's such a shame that he doesn't have a worthy competitor in Minnesota because, you know, the Republican state chair, they should also be a major competitive player. David Hann is not that. So like you said, that I wouldn't be surprised either if David Hann was Ken Martin's preferred choice for chair because he is so easily beatable.
Right.
If I was the Democrat chair, that's who I would want as well because David Hann, like I said, is so beatable. So when we look at 1.4 million to, $57,000, it shows that these are two people in completely different leagues. Ken Martin, even though he's an evil guy that's pushing through a radical agenda, we have to point him out as a winner because he is a winner, while David Hann, he's playing Little League.
Yeah, I hate to use that term, by the way, but I know what you mean.
Yep.
Read what Billy said. I like that.
All right, yeah, Billy22 says it's not just David Hann. The party is split between globalists like Hann and constitutional conservatives.
That's right.
100%.
And, you know, we're biased. We're going to tell you which side we're on. It's the constitutional conservatives, not the crony establishment, the globalists. You know, just to put a button on the, or bow on the federal expenditures. So they raised a total of $607,000 as of the end of February. Of that, I think about $365,000 came from small donors, which are probably mailers that they do. Mailers like this, where they basically tell you they're going to help out one of their challenged, endorsed, or non-endorsed candidates. The total expenditures was $488,000. So they're burning through it. You know, it's one thing if you raise $600,000 and you spend $100,000 and you just banked $500,000, but they're not. They're blowing through it. So even on the federal side, which is much more minor, like yes, CD2 will be contentious, right? CD3 possibly can, but CD2 is the main federal race in Minnesota, Congressional District 2. I mean, to think that they're going to win the state for Trump is a joke. So it's like really where the – I mean, just I'm really curious what you guys think. But if you're running the party, where do you think your energy should go? Towards winning Congressional District 2, just one of 435 seats in the U.S. Congress? Or to win at least the Minnesota House so the Democrats don't have a complete lock on the government here in the state of Minnesota? Which should be your top priority? I'm not saying you have to do one or the other. I'm just saying which one should be your top priority, and then you should fund it. I think most people, biasing your answer here, I think most people would agree with me, getting rid of the state Democrat majority would be the top priority. But the funding's not going there, right? The funding is going to the account that they're paying their salaries and they're paying and possibly getting ready to help out in congressional races. By the way, probably not CD7 if Steve Boyd wins it.
Yeah.
All right. Are we being a dead horse at this point? Let's move on to the next topic. Let's do this. So red light cameras. This is making a comeback in Minnesota. Let's pull a story up at truthhurtsnews.com. By the way, ran some Twitter ads on this, and it's very interesting. A lot of people seem to be hot on this topic.
I'd imagine it's pretty bipartisan among the grassroots. I'd imagine that, regardless of your political affiliations, you don't like to have more government, more spying on you. And so I could see it being popular.
Yeah. Minnesota Democrats are trying, and this is, by the way, on truthhurtsnews.com. Minnesota Democrats are trying to pass a bill that would legalize the use of more government surveillance equipment, in this case, red light traffic cameras. If caught on these cameras, violators would be fined at least $40 despite not being able to face their accuser of a crime. By the way, this was found unconstitutional. Oh, I wrote about this. This was in 2007. The ACLU sued the city of Minneapolis for this program on this issue, the fact that you can't face your accuser. It's invading your privacy rights. The bill, SF 2026, authored by State Senator Zainab Muhammad, is making progress in the Democrat-controlled Minnesota Senate. So far, the bill has been passed out of the Judiciary and Transportation Committees. If passed, it would legalize the use of red light traffic cameras for local governments and would establish a pilot program to commence by summer of 2025. So they're going to start with a couple cities, once again, a surveillance state. Now, Dawson, you tend to be more left-leaning, I guess, so to speak. when it comes to a lot of issues, at least on climate change, which is a made-up disaster by the left-wing radicals. But anyhow, what are your thoughts on this issue?
I think that I guess I don't really care if I'm getting surveilled more. I was talking with Dale about this the other day too, like the real ID. I have one of those, and it's like, well, why would you get that? That way they can recognize your face and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not doing anything illegal, so who cares if I'm being surveilled? I've got kind of a boring take on that kind of stuff.
So just because you're not doing anything wrong, you don't mind your privacy being invaded?
Well, if I'm out on a road, I don't think that there's any privacy that can be invaded, is there?
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the argument? And by the way, I'm just generally for less cameras by the government at all, but
Yeah.
Fair enough in the fact that there's a lot of cameras, even in the private sector, that are being used. What do you think about the argument that you have a right to face your accuser? And if there's a camera, who's your accuser? Because you could have a traffic stop and you can ask for the police officer that made the citation to show up in court.
Yeah.
It's generally not going to go your way, but you have that right.
Mm-hmm. And you can argue that, can I see your radar gun? Can I see that you actually documented me going that speed? There's all kinds of things like that. And I'm interested in this Zainab Mohammed. She's the senator you said that's behind it. I know it's her first term in there. It's a little bit curious why she would be behind the bill. I'm not
It's
indicating.
not actually curious. She even cites why.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so remember, I almost said George Floyd. John Thompson.
Yep.
Remember his son ran a red light and killed
Those 4 Muslim girls?
five.
Right.
Was it 5 Muslim women?
Okay, sure.
4 or 5. Now I'm forgetting the name. Tragic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like teenagers and young 20-year-olds. So that's what she cited in this bill. By the way, I don't.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
though.
it doesn't make any impact.
Right.
Here, right.
It's not because it's not like the guy was it wasn't because of the red light. He was fleeing from the cop.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So he was running that red light whether this law exists
Correct.
or not.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a shitty thing, but
right.
Don't attribute
the camera wouldn't have saved those girls' lives.
Yeah, don't attribute intelligence to this Democrat, sponsoring this bill, but that's what she said, and you get that little the sympathy because that was a tragic event, but it won't do anything different. So what do you think? So by the way, Tucker says not doing anything illegal yet. Love it. I thought Arizona made it illegal. That's what Razzle Dazzle is saying, but it is definitely legal in other states. Billy 22 Dawson, the government would never falsely accuse you of anything. I mean, it's not like they ever plant evidence like lie to judges or coerce witnesses. So yeah, keep thinking you're good. I mean, granted, you're probably low on the list of targets by the government, right?
I mean,
but you and I both know, and we ran through the story together, the guy creates a funny meme about voting for or texting your vote in for Hillary, and the guy is getting sentenced to prison.
I mean, so I guess what Billy's saying, I could have evidence planted on me, I guess, but like, what does that have to do with the surveillance camera? When the surveillance camera pick up them planting the evidence?
But I guess, maybe there could be problems where, let's say, it misreads a license plate or something. I could imagine all kinds of things, especially if you're driving. It could misread something. Yeah. It could falsely accuse people of crimes.
That'll definitely cause a headache, but I'm sure that kind of thing
usually the rule, not always for police officers, but usually a general rule of thumb is they're supposed to witness something before they're supposed to intervene unless they're called to it, unless they have attention brought to it by a member of the public. So usually, which this would be some sort of traffic infraction, the police are not supposed to say, hey, I heard you were speeding back there. No, the police are supposed to say, I witnessed you speeding, I caught it on my gun. So I do see a major problem with these cameras here.
I think that the people who are going to be speeding anyways will speed anyways. I don't think they'll care that these cameras are up. But if
they will when the tickets come in.
If this deters, I don't know, some idiot teens from speeding just randomly, then that's fine, I guess. Again, I always drive.
It just depends.
Exactly
Some speed limits are pretty arbitrary. There's some times where you're driving into town and then it goes 30, 35, 30, and you got to make sure that you're keeping up with whatever the sign says. So there's all kinds of speed traps and everything. I think that. Of course, these cameras, it's not like the government is going to not utilize speed traps for their benefit. Of course they're going to. I think that this is just a new tactic, and that's why it's surprising for me to hear that this Muslim new senator is the one that's behind it, because it sounds like this is only going to be beneficial for the police. The police are going to be the ones who are raking in the money for this one. So that's why I say it's curious that it doesn't seem that it would be beneficial for her or her community's interest, but if the explanation is because of that one incident, then she's probably got her mind made up emotionally.
Tickets would start at $40 on these, and then I'm sure they go up, and certainly multiple infractions would do it. Let's go to Susie's comment here.
Yeah, Susie Scarella says, it must be nice to be so very naive. The state never plays fair, and I agree with you on that, Susie. And then Billy22 says the infrastructure for totalitarianism is being built, and people refuse to see it.
That's where I go. Like, my head goes down. Well, I think there's a very good argument. You can't face your accuser, right?
Right. It
so
always
if you're
leads
facing
to
your accuser
else.
through pure technological means, boy, that's a slippery slope. But it's just the surveillance state keeps growing on us, and I don't want it. I want to push back, and it's going to be this is the thing that we're going to have to continue to fight against, because, quite frankly, as we adopt more technology, it becomes more and more tricky. By the way, speaking of technology, so have you seen what's going around social media, AI generated images where you like squint your eyes and it forms like Jesus? Have you seen these?
Yeah, I've seen
They're
that.
like, it's a, like the first time I
mean,
saw it, I was like, was that just a complete coincidence? And you see like 5 different ones, like, oh God, they're generating these things.
Yeah, that's like the
crazy.
new thing for boomers on Facebook, is to share those pictures and say, praise God. It's like,
they're
it's
duping
AI.
everybody. Yeah.
No, but a lot of people are just thinking it's, they think it's just a sign or something. It's like, I don't know. It's goofy, but I've just seen so many of them that's why I think it's funny.
That's funny. That's funny that it's reached like Facebook area type of stuff, because I've been seeing those things with dumb memes for like probably 3 years now or something like that. So
but it's just hit Facebook.
All right, let's go to the next story. Topless might become legal in Minnesota.
Based.
What?
Based.
Let's pull this article up. You can go to truthhurtsnews.com, and I really am curious on your guys' opinion on this story. A bill right now that's getting some backing in the Minnesota legislature would allow women to display bare breasts in public, and trans women, by the way, just so we know. And, well, if you're a woman but you pretend to be a man, can you then bare your chest? Is it still a breast, or does it become a chest? Is it a breasted male? Can we call them breasted males? But maybe they don't identify as a breasted male. Boy, what an interesting story, huh? All right, so anyhow, would allow women. Let's forget the trans for a second. Sorry. But if you look at the Minnesota House members that are getting on this bill, it's like the tranny coalition. It would allow women to display bare breasts in public. SF 5429, authored by Senator Alice Mann, removes exposure of human breasts from laws or ordinances regulating lewd exposure, gross lewdness, or lascivious behavior. Well, there's a word I don't say every day, and it's not my wordle. Here, I mean, literally, this is the whole bill's language right there. Basically read it. Exposure of a human breast alone does not constitute those things. And this would be effective July 1st of 2024. Currently, it's Minnesota Statute 2022, Section 61723, which makes it a misdemeanor for lewd exposure or a gross misdemeanor if there is a minor under 16 present. And then, of course, if there's repeated offenses, it actually bumps up to a felony crime punishable up to 5 years in prison. Can you imagine going to prison because you like going topless? So my question to you, is this a good direction for Minnesota to go? I have no opinion on this story. I'm going to withdraw my comments. What do you think there, Jesse? Am I putting you in the hot chair?
I'd probably oppose it. I'd probably oppose it. And I hate to sound anti-liberty here, but
you're anti-woman. You got to be.
Yeah,
why are you anti-woman?
Sure.
Let them expose it.
Right, that's what it is. But that's the thing. I'm sure in certain places, certain times, nude beaches, whatever, that should be fine. But out in public, where there's children, and I was telling you guys a story before we started that I once was driving by a gay pride parade, and there was this 350
Just happened to be driving by. Okay,
it was right in front of the Idaho Capitol building, and then here comes this 350-pound monster of a woman, and she puts her hands up and starts swinging like that, And she was topless. She had a couple of things covering her nipples, but I mean, it was disgusting. And I saw that there were kids there. I thought that kind of thing shouldn't be allowed. I thought this is disgusting. We don't want to see that kind of stuff out in public.
Hold on, but what if it's a good-looking one? See, it's always the ones that you don't want to see. But what if it's
right? Exactly. But that's the thing. The law is always going to be applied to everyone, and so because
I know, but I also don't want the law affecting the good people, right? So, what if innocent good people are also being affected by this law?
That's a risk I'm willing to take. I don't think it's. I don't think there's that many out there, and those that do have that urge are probably kind of creeps.
Razzle Dazzle says this is all Soros-funded bills.
Yeah, I don't know. You think George Soros supports? I mean, Soros kind of just supports the toppling of our country and society. So maybe Soros would be behind this.
What do you think about this issue, Dawson? I'm very curious.
I like it. I think that it's still. I was saying this in the pre-show, but if a woman wants to take off her shirt in public, I think that people can still look at that and be like, I don't like that. That's cringe. That's not cool. But should you really be able to be arrested for having your shirt off in public? I don't think so.
You're not going to get arrested, generally speaking. It says it's a misdemeanor and be a gross misdemeanor.
So you get fined or something?
You get, and it didn't say the fine in here unless they got
that's
felony.
That's even stupider.
It says, number 1, if you willfully and lewdly expose the person's body or private parts thereof. Number 2, procures another to expose private parts. Or 3, engages in any open or gross lewdness or lascivious behavior or any public indecency other than behavior specified in the subdivision. That's the misdemeanor. It busts up to a gross demeanor, as I said, if you're exposed to someone under the age of 16 or the person violates subdivision 1, which is what I just read, after having been previously convicted of violating it before. Then it bumps up to a gross misdemeanor.
And so do you think if this was given floor votes, do you think it would pass in the House and Senate? But, okay, here we go. K-Wall for life, $10 Rumble Rant. When is the next A4L local event?
Are you talking about our super secret events here at headquarters, K-Wall? If that's what you're referring to. Would you hit me up on email? I'll let you know, by the way. I got a couple tickets for subscribers, so if you're not a supporter or a monthly supporter of Action for Liberty, I got a couple tickets to give away.
But
I'll be barbecuing by the way, so you'll want to come to that. It'll be a good one.
Yep. I'm just thinking, if this bill, I don't think that the Democrats are going to try to push this thing through. It sounds like it's more of a thing that they just want out there so that they can say to their constituents, look,
they want it out there, Jesse.
But I can't imagine that it's actually going to be given House and Senate floor votes. But if it was, I can't imagine that any, there won't be any Republican support. I really doubt that. And I can't imagine that every single Democrat would do it. The Democrats, they'll fall in line on a lot of things, but
why?
Would they do it every single time?
Why do you think so? Because I got a theory here. But why do you say that? What's your rationale?
Well, mainly just because they think it would be electoral disaster. I think that they would be
think
seen
it's
as
electoral? Okay.
Oh, yeah, of course. I think people would
vote
them
might
out.
help them in the mail vote, which is where they're struggling.
Maybe.
Here's the interesting dynamic here. So this is authored by Alice Mann, Jen McEwen, Aaron May Quaid. Aaron May Quaid would love to see a lot more women's breasts. She's a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
And then Liz Bolden. So that's 4 senators.
Well, you know what? I think if they're going to put this bill out there, they should set the example. They need to go out and get on the Senate and House floor topless. I want to see it in the committees. I want to see it on the floor. And until I see it, and until they're going to be good examples for these young women and role models for them to look up to and see that they can be topless in offices of power, until that happens, I don't want to see this legislation move at all.
Here. Whip them out.
So basically your stance is you don't know what lewd behavior is, but
I'm saying that I have to see it.
You don't know how to define it, but you know when you see it? Is that what?
I'm saying that I have to see it in practice before I can make a judgment.
Okay. All right, so who's not on this bill, as you probably could read through the lines, is Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
And nor is Muhammad Noor. Boy, by the way, I meant Zainab Muhammad and Muhammad Noor.
Yeah.
Boy, there's so many Muhammad.
Or
That's
Fateh,
like the most
right?
common name. Or Fateh.
I would imagine that they would the their people wouldn't be super excited about that kind of thing going through.
Probably
Congress.
not.
Now in the House, Spencer Mura, Brion Curran, Stinky Finky, and Kozlowski, the usual bunch. They've got the whole LGBTQ on this bill. Apparently, power. But anyhow, yeah, I don't take a position on this one. It is
It's
interesting.
the battle of the burqa and the boob.
It would a Here's the other question: would a Republican vote for this bill?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't know where I stand on this issue, to be honest with you. I would So here's the big thing: if you just think like a man can go shirtless, a woman can't. Is breast a private part?
I would personally. So somebody said it earlier. Failed candidates said, when it comes to public nudity, protect the kids. Full stop. I personally don't think that a titty is going to hurt the children. If a man was gonna whip out his schlong and be like, "Here, kids, look at this," I think that's ridiculous.
Which,
And
by the
this
way,
could be
the
the first
Democrats
step.
are fine with that in a female restroom or a female locker room. The Democrats are fine with that if he identifies as a woman, right? By the way,
are you
I
sure?
forgot to
Wait,
mention
hold on. Are you sure that Democrats are fine with
Correct, yes.
a transgender woman going into a restroom and showing their kid their
Correct,
penis?
yes. In fact, there's even a
No,
bill to make sure that
I
can
bet
happen in high
that's
schools.
probably not true.
Well, the
Wait,
Democrats.
hold on. What did you just say?
I bet that's probably
the
not
No,
Democrats.
hold on. That is 100% true.
Yeah, the Democrats
What are
cover
you
it up
talking
when
about?
those kind of incidents happen in schools where a kid is exposed or something, or like there's some kind of problem. Most oftentimes the liberals and the Democrats in the school they take the transgender side because they know that they'll be called transphobic if they do anything else. So it's happening and it's disgusting.
By the way, I guess you wouldn't call a restroom and a locker room a private or a public location. However, they would allow that. I mean, I guess in general, a woman's breasts are exposed in a locker room with probably children too, right? It's
Sure.
as long as it stays in the gender. You see the dangerous fire that Democrats are always playing
Okay,
with?
so you meant locker rooms, like changing rooms type of deal, right? Not
Yeah, we could
public
say locker
restroom.
room, like you're going to a pool or something like that. Kids would
Okay.
be there. But
So-
even gyms, you can have kids in a...
So what I figured you were saying was in a public restroom, like at a school or something, just whip out your schlong and be like, "Look, kids." And I'm like,
Well,
That probably does
yeah,
not
I mean,
happen.
technically, yes, if you're trying... Well, I guess technically in a woman's bathroom, they're all in stalls, but say you're zipping up and it's out there. I guess the locker room's a better example here,
Okay.
right?
that
Seems
that
a
makes
little...
more sense.
Seems like you'd really be trying to expose yourself because there's no urinals in a
Yeah.
women's bathroom. By the way,
Failed-
subdivision 4 it says breastfeeding is not a violation of this section for a woman to breastfeed. So, a breast can be out already for that.
Scott Jensen agrees with that one. And I saw Susie Scarella says slippery slope, it's how they roll. And I kind of agree. And Dawson, I know you're saying like if it was a man, it'd be different. But if they're pushing a law like this, it's coming down the line where they would want full nudity to be able to be legalized.
I don't think so. I think that there's a reason the slippery slope is a fallacy. It's because the question is, where does it stop? It stops somewhere. I can't answer where it stops, but it does stop eventually.
But it's also true. It's not just a fallacy that one thing leads to another, and that things pile up, and then it becomes something bigger than it initially was. So it is true that causing that this would cause some sort of reaction to expand it.
I agree with that, but that's not an argument to stop something in its track, okay? So, and I'm just, maybe I'm playing devil's advocate here, okay? But let's just say a man can go shirtless in public. I'm not advocating to make that illegal. Zayn and Muhammad might, but then again, maybe she won't. So, anyhow,
Right, she'll put up cameras to
why
make sure.
can a man do that and a woman can't? Are breast private parts?
For women, absolutely.
But the only difference between a woman and a man, other than milk production, is basically the fatty tissue. And by the way, there's a lot of men that are competing in that category.
I think that it comes down to culture, right? Because in some parts of Africa, you're just naked all the time, and nobody really cares because everybody's naked all the time.
Yes,
So, in
it's
our
definitely
culture,
cultural.
in our culture, we've deemed tops of women to not be allowed, but tops of men to be
Okay.
allowed. And if that changes, then it changes.
All right. So,
But I mean, that's been around for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. That's been the norm. You know.
Tucker's like, if women can go topless and men can go bottomless, no, Tucker, stop it. Stop it. We don't want that progression. Stop right there. Stop. Don't even. I don't think a lot of people are arguing for the bottom section, right?
On either side. Women or
On
men.
the other side, I think the butt side's been pretty widely accepted, certainly when you go to the coast. But the front side, for sure. I don't hear a lot of people making that argument. But what's the difference between a male and a female being topless? Now here, that's me playing devil's advocate. I'm gonna throw this one at you.
About 1 million eyeballs.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
That's the difference.
It's a weird one to define, right?
You know, that's
but
the
it's
thing. Like, I don't think it would ever become normal, no matter how much it would be try to be pushed. You know, no matter what, it would always be an outlier.
Tucker says they are a sex organ. Look at a great rack and try not to get aroused. Ha ha. He just put ha ha. He was uncomfortable writing that. It's not a joking matter there, Tucker. Very true point. A finer point hasn't been made. Well, straight men would be very aroused by that. But I also have a question. Like, what if it's just the hips? What if it's the legs? Like, I think Muslims have taken to the far extreme where in like Saudi Arabia, you can't even show your face. Saudi Arabia, right? Yeah, I think so.
Something.
Well, certainly she can't show your ankles, right?
Did
So-
failed candidates say, Dawson, go breed and get back to me? Am I reading that correctly?
That's what it says.
Failed Kant says lascivious behavior would include a bottomless Tucker.
Yeah.
That's what happens when we go over an hour.
Failed candidate, do you know what that means? Go breed and get back to me?
Wait, what?
What? It's the top comment on the screen right now.
Is it really? Well, okay.
Dawson, go
Interesting.
breed and get back to me.
Where are we going?
I'll get on it, I guess.
How quickly we fall. All right. Anyhow, thanks for participating. I had to tell a story. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting one. I kind of lean your way, Jesse. Probably not a good idea for us to go this route. You know. Also, maybe as private citizens, we can. Well, I guess that's a tricky one.
Right. I think that this also leads to prostitution. I've heard through the grapevine that there's some Democrats that want to allow prostitution, which that's a whole separate discussion on its own because, you know, how do you go about regulating something like that? And then there's so much to that I don't think that any of these are in the, possibility of reasonableness I don't think any of this is going to happen. I could be wrong. But Tim Walz did promise us a normal legislative session, so we'll see what comes out.
Yeah. So on the ladder of things that I am worried about, and up here is like World War III and endless debt, I got to imagine freeing the boobies is like down here. Is that a fair? Can we all agree on that one?
No, that's my single vote.
That's your single vote, but you're on the side of allowing it to go forward.
Yeah, I'm a one-issue voter, and it's whether or not I get to see boobs.
All right. Well, you need to put pressure on these committee members because I think they got to get this through a committee by the end of the week. Isn't that? Don't you guys notice this is the legislature's self-imposed timelines? Bills, if they want to get movement, they have to get a committee go through the committee process this week. Otherwise, they don't meet the deadline. And if you haven't met the deadline, well, then you just have to wait to the end of the session where they just slide it into the omnibus bills. And speaking of that, we're seeing this happen on a story. Did you write the story yet?
Yep.
Oh, okay, let's pull this up. First time I've seen it. It's on actionforliberty.com. You can go to actionforliberty.com, probably the newest story.
It's not even up yet, so this is just exclusive for you guys here.
Wow, unbelievable.
That's right.
I hope the editor over there doesn't get mad about this.
Which one is
This
it?
is
The bottom one, line 12.
you got your name's MAGA Jesse on the
Yep.
site now too. I love it.
That's
All right,
right.
go ahead. Tell us what's going on here, Jesse.
Yep, so this is we had previously reported on a bill that is proposed by Representative Lee Finke. So Chris Finke is pushing a bill that would require insurance companies that are mandating insurance companies to cover transgender coverage. So whether that means the mutilation surgeries, whether that's the hormone blockers, or whatever else is related, this bill would require that the insurance companies have to cover it regardless of the age, regardless of anything going on with the person. There's no protections for any kind of children, no protections for vulnerable adults. So with this kind of legislation, we're going to see all kinds of people being taken advantage of. Now, this bill on its own was a standalone piece of legislation that we had pointed out and let the people know that this is something that's coming down the pike. Well, the Democrats, they went to their usual tactic, which is stuff that into an omnibus bill that nobody's ever going to read, except for us because we're here to expose it. And so they decide to add it to the Commerce Omnibus Bill, a bill that has absolutely nothing to do with the same subject at all, which is unconstitutional. I point that out. Article 4, Section 17 of the Minnesota Constitution says that all bills must, all the topics of the bills must be expressly noted in the title, and there shouldn't be multiple subjects in a bill. This bill is filled with that. So essentially what they're trying to do is stuff this into the bill so that the Democrats all have to pass it. Tim Walz promised us a normal legislative session. This is nothing normal. So this kind of stuff needs to be stopped. And in a free market healthcare system, we would allow that these insurance companies would have competition. They would each be able to cover the types of coverage that they would like. We would be able to, ensure that we get to choose the coverage of our choice if insurance companies would even be necessary in a true free market system. But according to the Democrats, people talk about the invisible hand of government, which is, the supply and demand of capitalism that shows that things will already move on their own just because of human nature. Well, the Democrats, instead of using human nature, they want to use the government as the visible hand of the economy, insert themselves into it, which has only proven itself throughout history to fail. So this is something that people need to be reaching out to their senators. This is going back to the Senate. This bill initially passed the Senate. Only 12 Republicans vote against it. Now that the transgender legislation is in there, we need every Republican to vote against it, and then additionally another Democrat on top of it. So reach out to your state senator, let them know what's in this bill, and make sure that they are voting against it.
All right, and what I think that, and I don't see it in the article here, but I think we have to just read through the lines on this one, Jesse, is that this actually is going to grow the cost of your health insurance because you're adding required. This is what happened to Obamacare, right? Everyone's insurance now has to cover breast pumps, right?
Yep.
Going back to the last story. I was kidding.
So,
why does a single man need breast pumps on his health insurance plan? But the idea is to lower the cost for the people that do need it and raise the premiums for everyone else. So this is going to raise the premiums. So now we all are paying indirectly for a service, which, by the way, if you openly choose a health insurance policy that covers this stuff, then it's on you. You get to choose that way. But now it's mandated by the insurance companies, just like what happened under Obamacare, and it's going to raise the price of our health insurance. I'm just trying to look at all of our family expenditures. I don't know anywhere where there's been a cut in cost. Certainly not in taxes, right? But I can't think of anywhere. Democrats are just adding more shit on top of that. And in this case, something very immoral, which are probably going to also require abortion to be covered. Did you look and see if that bill got, because there was a bill on abortion coverage too.
Oh, okay. No, I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah. That'd be interesting. But then something that we're morally opposed to. Okay. We're going to be jumping to our subscribers only on locals.com here in just a minute. Dawson, do you have the graphic for the thing that we're going to show in the after show? Do you have that ready to go?
Yeah, I'll get it up.
Okay, so
it will be fast.
It'll be really interesting. I'm actually very excited to show you guys one of the things that we're doing out in Vegas. You guys will be the first to hear about this. If you're not a subscriber, I'm sorry. I love you guys, but we got to give the subscribers some additional stuff, and this is going to be fun. So if you want to, you can go to Rumble right now, or if you're watching after the fact, you don't have to do this live. You can go to Rumble and hit join, and for $8 a month to become one of our subscribers. That allows our show to continue on air, which is what we're going to try to do is always give you stories you don't hear from anywhere else. Before we sign off, Dawson, do you want to talk about?
Yeah. Do we have the we didn't have the article in the thing, did we?
Did you want like a Fox 9 article or something?
Well, I guess. So basically on Friday night, my roommate, Eric Berger, was murdered by one of his, they used to be friends, but they grew apart over the years. And so I'm currently trying to figure out where I'm going to live now. I guess Jake knows kind of the details of it more than I do when it comes to like the crime stuff. I was just kind of caught in the middle, but I think you should probably tell more of it.
Okay, I'll just put the WCCO article here. I put on F13. So I think, I mean, it's not just your roommate, a friend, coworker.
Probably, I mean, he would probably be considered my best friend because I don't have a whole lot of those. So yeah.
Yeah. So Eric ran IT here. So everyone around here knows them, and I don't just mean in this Cherry Tree Studios, and there's a bigger company that he actually technically worked for, but that co-owned by Cherry Tree. So he was the tech guy. This is one of those things you don't think is going to happen. This is a picture of Eric here, and it's, I don't know how much we want to discuss just on air, because maybe just obviously we know a little bit more details, but didn't need to happen. Obviously, it was a murder suicide.
Are you talking like motive type stuff?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is maybe, I'm not part of the car community, but it seemed like Eric was pretty beloved in that community. We knew Eric had very nice vehicles, right? He had a ton.
Yeah,
he's very big in the car community. Oh, look at that! Yeah, get rid of all those damn flashy ads. They are terrible. News agencies, which I guess we run, but we don't do these flashy ads. I hope I never go to those pop-up ads and stuff like that on truthhurtsnews.com, because it just makes it impossible to read. But he had a garage at the Chanhassen Motorplex. Maybe some of you guys have heard the story already. Probably had no idea this kind of hit at home. But we were going to Vegas. We had a trip planned for the National Association of Broadcasters show, Sunday morning, early flight. And, Dawson and then Dale, who employed Eric, found out this news early Saturday morning.
Yep. It was pretty crazy. It was not what I expected. Yeah.
Not something you would have saw happening this weekend. So anyhow, yeah, I guess obviously you guys wouldn't have seen or known Eric. Just typical tech people. It's really rare that a show actually has the tech guy on. I mean, you obviously run the dials, but the servers and internet and all that kind of stuff was run by Eric. So a guy behind the scenes in many regards, making things happen. And so, yeah. Anyhow, if you guys want to join our after show, join us on Locals. We'll be probably live in about 2 minutes. You got to see, a lot of you guys are going to want to see this thing that brought us out to the NAB show. We go to the NAB show every year anyhow. When you run a studio, it's kind of the big show, but we had something in particular. So thank you very much for the Rumble Rants. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Thank you to our sponsors, Alpine Cabinetry, Warren Wessel of Warren Wessel Realty. Give Warren a call if you're buying or selling a home at 612-419-7453. And if you're buying a home through Warren, or if you're buying a home from anyone else, quite frankly, I don't know why you'd buy it from anyone else. Maybe you got a friend in the business you've known for 20 years. But it's only 19. Give it to Warren, okay? You got to hit that 20 years as a friend of the realtor before you don't go to Warren West. Warren's a damn good real estate agent. I'll tell you that much. My real estate agent, William, I don't think William's going to care if I say it. So anyhow, no matter who you're buying a home from, give our friends at John Galt Mortgage a call, or go to johngaltmortgage.com. Sorry, a call. I don't have a number for them. Just go to their website. They're youngsters. They don't use phones. They make it easy on you. Just hit them up right there on message. They probably got a message on their website or email or something like that. Or maybe they got a phone call, whatever. Go to johngaltmortgage.com. That was the worst ad ever. I am so sorry, Andrew, Tim. I murdered that ad.
That was
but
really bad.
You know what? You know what they do? They do very well. They do social media. Go check them out on Facebook, probably. Facebook's probably the best one, maybe Twitter. You'll understand why this company wants to be part of our community here. They think like us. They are not shy to tell you exactly their pro-liberty ideas. John Galt Mortgage Company. Go give them a try. All right. We'll be going to the live or the subscriber version here. And thank you guys very much. We'll be back on Tuesday. Take care.